Welcome back to another episode of the Cameras and Coffee podcast. I am sitting here with Michelle Smigielski, and we're going to talk about being unfiltered. And honestly, it's us being unfiltered. So, welcome, Michelle. Oh my gosh.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm kind of scared, but we'll see how it goes.
Whatever. So, if you've been an avid listener of the podcast, she was in season 1. We talked about motherhood and running a business, but today we're just completely unfiltered, like I said. So, we're just going to talk about the things in the photography world. Her and I text daily, along with our friend Kelly. And Kelly was on the podcast a couple episodes ago. We talked about videography. And yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about the things we text about and be completely candid. So I'm going to go through some questions we talked about and go from there. So, Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I just got out of
Yes.
hot yoga, so I apologize. Everyone who knows me knows that a workout over a shower is always going to be my choice, so I apologize. But yeah, no, we're
I love
good.
it. That is so you. I don't want my husband to know this, but I went back to bed after the kids got to school. We've had a number of snow days, and I went to bed and set my alarm, and I was like, oh crap, we have a recording of a podcast in a half hour. So threw in some dry shampoo, pulled my hair
I
back,
mean,
and here I am.
lots of snow days.
So,
We deserve the sleep,
oh,
let me tell you.
yes. How are you surviving slow season, Michelle?
I'm surviving it. I feel like I'm sane again. Um,
Right?
I well, I have to admit, like I've been a little bored, but like in a good way. I've had
Mhm.
a huge to-do list with work, all busy season, and a huge to-do list with like family and stuff, and
Yeah.
house and all that stuff. But I actually tried to put it all aside and just be bored because I do feel my business took off like real quick, and which is great. I'm not complaining, but I haven't had downtime in like 3 years. So there's a little
Perfect.
burnout. I'm not I'm not
Honestly,
gonna
when
lie.
you say downtime, like, okay, so if you are not a photographer and you're listening, which I don't know many that are, but if you are, um, slow season for us is usually because we're in the Midwest, is usually during the winter time. So like some start in Jan or December, but about mm, January through
January.
March. And usually when we say slow season, it doesn't mean like we don't have work. It's mostly we're not shooting as much. So we're kind of playing catch up from the year and like reorganizing, getting things ready. Right now we're in tax season. We're filming this actually in January, even though this won't come out until about April. But yeah, so when we say slow season, it just means we're doing office work mostly. But for me, I have been pretty good about walking away from my computer. Like usually in the late night, I'm like, oh, I gotta go do this. Or I'm like, we're not doing anything. My family's all got things they're doing right now. I'm just gonna go work on this. And lately I'm like, you know what? No, I don't feel like it.
I'm using
So
this
I've
slow
allowed
season.
myself not to. Yeah.
That's good because remember, I always text you like, "Do you work all the time?" And I'm trying to put hours, like specific hours,
Mm,
and I'm using the slow time to like really like hammer that into my brain. Like,
mhm,
okay, it's 5 o'clock. The kid's home from school. I need to shut off work and start with family and
mhm.
everything else. And I've been using the slow time to get more creative. So just kind of if I am on the computer at night, it's more to edit my own personal photos than it is to
Mm.
edit or work on, taxes or catching up on the back end of business because there's more to business. There's more to photography
Yep.
than photography.
Well, and honestly, like I say I'm trying to be more intentional with work hours, but my brain doesn't work that way. So like and I've always been this way, even when I worked a desk job. And I've been kind of better about like creating lists like on my phone or something when something pops into my head cuz honestly there's so many things going on. I do a lot at once all the time. So
You
which
do.
maybe I have undiagnosed ADHD, I don't know, but these are just ways I cope with it, I guess. But I yeah, I if I think of something, I just go and do it. And I am one of those people like when I start something, I do it till I finish it. And so sometimes it's hard for me to take a break and just stop like in the middle of momentum, so to speak, because I know it's going to take even longer to get back into it. So, yeah.
See, and
But
I'm the opposite. I have a lot of ideas and I might start the majority of them, but I get probably about 30% in and it's like, "Mom," and I'm like, "Squirrel." And but then I get pulled away and it's hard to start back up. So I do have a lot of unfinished projects in general. And
yeah.
but unlike you, I can't just sit at a computer for a very long period of time. Like I like to be
Yeah.
active and I like to be moving. That's the hot yoga, that's the walking the dog and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So it's harder for me to just sit in front of a computer and be
Mhm.
inactive, I think, than you. I think you get more focused.
Well, I am one where I'm like, if I don't, I'm gonna not wanna do it later again.
Yeah.
Because even, like, I was doing laundry this past week and, like, cleaning, and I'm like, "I'm in a mode, like, don't stop me from what I'm doing." Because like, it'll be the kids where they're like, "Mom, can you do this?" And I'm like, "I just need to finish what I'm doing." Like, I don't like,
Yeah.
I really want to, but if I don't finish this, I won't come back to it. So I'm gonna finish this and then come to that. And so, yeah, it is I'm just very focused and have to, like, fixate
It's
and
not a bad thing. It's a good probably better than having a bunch of
yeah,
half-done
maybe.
projects.
Just
Interesting.
communicating that is
Yeah,
usually really hard because 'cause I'm just like, "Ugh." But,
yeah.
alright.
See?
So, let's talk about the craziest thing that's happened in your career.
Like crazy good or crazy bad?
It's however you take it. Like, it could be, like, really, like, awesome, or it can be something that was, like, a horrible experience
No.
where you're
Let's
like,
talk
"Never
good.
again."
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start off with the good. We need more joy in good things, right? Like,
Okay. I mean, this is
okay.
unfiltered, so
I
take it
know,
however you want.
that's what scares me. Um, no, okay, so good, let's see. I would say the craziest thing was I think was being invited to go to, like, just just how busy work took off for me. Like, I quit
Mm,
my job in May, and I was expecting, like, to have to, like, cut back and, like, not get nails done and, like, not get my hair done and all this stuff. Sorry, I keep looking here because I see me and I hate my face. I'm like, so I think the craziest thing was it took off so quickly that I call it like the Oprah effect. Like, like everything, it blew up so quickly. I had so much great opportunity. I live in such a great community that I feel that like we all kind of support each other and everyone talks and just really like recommended me. And some of the opportunities I got were huge that I remember showing up to like an event in Florida. I was invited for
mm.
the very first time, and I showed up with a backpack. Like that's literally what I showed up with. Was a backpack with like one camera and like I think a flash that I borrowed from you and two lenses, and I think I rented like another lens. Like I
Okay,
literally
I gotta stop you for a minute. Okay, so if you're listening, Michelle is downplaying this. So this event she was invited to was for an enormous corporation, okay? Like
it
very
was
well known in our area, is kind of all over the US, mostly the Midwest. And she was doing their entire like summit. So she was their photographer.
like, I had no I like, I mean, I was prepped like that. I knew I was told I was gonna it was
Yes.
long days and it was gonna but I had no idea. So I remember walking in with like this backpack of gear, right? Because I was like, I don't want to check my gear. And this last year, I rolled in with Kara as my assistant. I like sent a ginormous monitor on a truck. Like we both had Pelican cases full of gear, and
What did I show up? Just talk about like what I showed up with.
Kara showed up with more gear than I did.
Like
But
57 pounds of like honestly, what would you say the size of my Pelican is? It's like
it's like a
ginormous.
trunk. It's like a trunk. Like
It's
it's
like the
literal
half of a crib mattress,
it's
basically.
huge. And not saying that I didn't do a good I did a great job the first year.
No,
And,
yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying that you can't do it with a backpack full of gear. You can. I could still do it in a backpack full
Yeah.
of gear, but I think the that was the crazy thing, the naivety of, like, walking in with a backpack and then just, like, being completely overwhelmed by being there, like, by
Yeah.
being asked to be there to cover
Did
it.
you
And
think it
again,
was gonna be as big as it was?
I had no clue. And again, I could still do it with that backpack, but
Oh, yeah.
it just gives me a little
There's a
bit more.
there's assurance because when you show up to something like that, now knowing, you're like, "I might need this, I might need
Yeah,
that," which honestly, you did an amazing job with just your backpack. Like, don't
thanks.
downplay that. It's just there's more and more you've realized over time, you're like, "Oh, I need to bring a strobe because I have to photograph 150 people in one photograph and have to have them well
Yeah.
lit for this photo," like yeah,
Yeah, so
multiple things.
it's just I come more prepared, and I think I get a little bit more flexibility when I bring, like, a couple different things. And even,
Yeah.
like, when I was there, I, like, borrowed this last time, like, I didn't bring a tripod, and the videographer's like, "If you're doing that photo, you gotta do it right," and we, like, spent 25 minutes setting up for 1 photo, right? Like,
Yeah. Hey,
um
I mean, when you have a job to do that's that important, yeah, do what
yeah.
you need to do. Let's talk about okay, I do have a story that maybe you're not thinking of. What happened to you at one of these events that
Yeah,
was like it's ongoing, it's brought up multiple
like
times,
the
and now
joke.
everyone wants to support you because okay, tell us about what happened.
Are you talking about when I fell?
Yes.
On stage. So I was photographing on a stage, like, at a large event at a town hall, and, like, this is the funniest part. It's like we me and the videographer, like, we literally had a dance, like, we planned it all out, like, who was standing where, like, and I made the joke because it was right after, like, the photographer off the stage with, I think, Matthew Stafford, and I was like, I'm not gonna do it, like, that's not gonna be me,"
Yeah.
you know, so we had this whole plan, like, then everyone gets there, we're going through the plan, everyone's on stage, and I didn't take into account a speaker on the ground, and I literally backed
I
up.
mean, it's dark in those things,
It
right?
was dark,
Like,
and
it's dark, so a black speaker, like, how are you gonna see that?
well, and I wasn't even paying attention because we had, like, rehearsed how we were gonna walk
Oh, yeah.
back where it's and when you're in the moment, at least for me, when I'm in the moment, I'm literally looking through my camera, I'm looking at what I'm trying to capture, and I just fell over the speaker, and I did not fall off the stage. They thought I was, but I literally fell. My camera I had a belt on. My extra camera and my lens went flying, and they tell me my legs came over and hit me in the head, and luckily I rolled to the left onto the stage and not right off of the stage,
Oh my goodness.
and
Maybe
I
that's
had
part of your hot shoe issues on your camera.
oh,
I mean, we all know
yeah,
the R6,
yeah.
has hot shoe
It's right
issues, but
here, I'm
still.
sending it in today. Um
Um,
But
yeah.
yeah, so everyone popped up to, like, try and catch me. Uh, Luckily, I did not fall off, but I think they were shocked because I popped right back up and kept taking pictures.
Oh my gosh. Well, my favorite was this next year when we went, you're, like, on a chair or something, and there's,
I
like,
was
2
climbing up
guys
the chair,
holding you, making sure you don't fall.
and I don't think you were there. I was doing, like, this huge 200 group photo, and I climbed up on a table, and all of them just
Oh,
went,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
"No!"
you mentioned it, yeah. They're like, "Don't do it."
So, it's a joke now, it's funny, and it's like I mean, it is what it is, right? We're all human, we
Yeah,
all, like, trip over our own feet, like, I laugh about
yeah.
it, but yeah, that was me.
Oh, man. So, yes, crazy story. Okay, well, let's pivot. Let's
Okay.
talk about trends. This is what we text about all the time, and I think a lot of it is because and I think a lot of millennials really struggle with this. Are you a millennial? Or are
No,
you
I'm a
Gen
Gen
X?
X.
Okay.
I know, we're the
See, like,
forgotten one.
it's funny because, like, I'm, like, right at the beginning millennial stage, and you're, like, right at the end of the Gen X stage,
It
so
depends on what
it's
you
like
like, what model you go for, like, some
yeah.
of them consider me millennial, but I really kind of consider myself Gen X because if you saw like the
Yeah.
way I dressed back in the day and the music I listened to, and like I wasn't like a
I love it.
poppy like it's in sync or but Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
I was like, give me Nirvana
New
and Pearl
Kids?
Jam.
No.
Yes, it was New Kids. That was me.
Yes. But yeah, I think a lot of us have the most issues with trends, and I think a lot of it is because we've gone through it. Like, I've gone through the trend of, like, holding photo frames in every photo and, like, like, color priority or whatever, where everything's black and white and one thing's in color. Like, we all tried it, and we all look back and we're like, "Those were so dumb. Why did I do that? Never again."
Like those
And so we're like, we need something that's going to be timeless all the
yeah.
time in our photography. Um,
Well, and I was so when I went to college, it was we were using film cameras. Like we were legit developing our own film, developing our own photos, and digital cameras were like the point and shoots. Like I remember
yeah. Oh, yeah.
we would like they would hand them out to us because no one had them, and that was
Yeah.
a digital camera. So I I took photography classes in college, and I'm not saying that you have to do this. Please understand. Like know that
Yeah.
like the majority of what I've learned is outside of college 20 some years ago. Like
Yeah.
it's classes and it's like YouTube and it's like out in the field. But I think my basis of photography is through intention and
Mm,
being creative, but with intentionality and
yeah.
intuition and fusing. Like you have to like explain it. Like we didn't get away with being
Yeah.
like, we just like it blurry.
Well, honestly, like, I think you've been through so many critiques of your photography having gone through, like, through
Yeah.
that degree of going
Yeah.
through photography classes, because I had friends that did it too, and I remember thinking, "Oh, their work is amazing," but they're like, "But everyone said this and this and this," and so then they think it's not a good image anymore. And
I had
honestly, art is in the eye of the beholder, right?
absolutely, it's totally subjective. Like, my own husband will look at like, I showed him a picture I took of our son at hockey, and he's like, "But it's blurry." And I was like, "It is because it's
That's funny
showing
coming from him.
it's coming from him." And he's like, "But I don't where is he? It's blurry." I'm like, "But it's like the movement, right? Like, you see
Yes.
the movement, and you can see the
Intentional blur.
it was intentional." But
Yeah.
yes, when you go through 4 years of classes, because I was a graphic designer, so you have so I would go from graphic design and photography classes where you literally pinned all of your work up on a board and you had your entire class like we'd be sitting in chairs and on tables
Yeah.
looking at it. And luckily the best of them and the majority of them would be like, "I love this." But so you got like the good criticisms
Yeah.
and the bad, but after years of being told like this is working, this isn't, like this is flat.
Yeah.
This like why did you do this? Because it doesn't make sense. That for me, I need to see why
Yeah.
you did that, right? Like
Yeah.
why, and you don't have to, I don't want you to have to tell me. I want to be able to know, like in your
Mhm.
photo. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm a photo snob.
I think we both are. Because it's funny because when you're talking about those point and shoots, like, I'm seeing photographers now who, like, when I've done a styled shoot, like, they're bringing those. I saw someone with, like, a disposable camera, and they're considering that
Yeah.
their film that they're offering, and I'm like, "Have we taken a step backward in time?" Like
And I'm not against, here's the thing, I'm not against any of that. Like there's
Yeah.
something to it, like, but I think you've got to have a reason for it. Like, okay, why am I doing
Yeah.
this? Is it like, and I don't think it can be your whole entire gallery. Like, I can't
Oh,
do a whole
no,
gallery on a
hopefully not.
disposable camera,
Yeah.
right? Like, so if you want to add some creativity to it, I'm totally
Mhm.
cool with that. But like, why are you doing it? Do you know why?
Yeah.
Or are you just doing it because Instagram and some influencer told you?
Yeah, or you're trying
Right.
to be like everybody else. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is a thing. I'm just gonna throw." Because I've seen that in wedding galleries where they're like, "This is a blurry photo. Like, turn it black and white, send it in there because this is the thing that's happening right now." I'm like, I would look back at them and be like, "What was the purpose of this photo?"
This again is
It's
going
kind
to
of
be
funny.
this is the snob coming out. Like, I don't mind blurry photos if it's not trying to cover up bad photography.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
do you
and
see
we've
what I'm
talked
saying?
about, like, how funny it is, like, if you have an image, let's say, like, the color was really bad. We're like, "Just turn it black and white," and every time we're, like, sending each other a photo, we're like, what do you think of the color in this? Like, does it look okay? Does my work look consistent? We do this a lot. So if
Yeah.
you're listening, like, we're always sending galleries back and forth. Like, can you check this? Make sure this gallery looks consistent. And, and our response is always like, just turn it black and white.
Just turn the whole thing black and white. Just do it. Just do it.
Which I honestly, I did that for one of the weddings because it was like a candid moment. I had everything set up for the ceremony, and the bride was like, I went to go check on him. She's like, "Can you take a picture of this?" And I'm like, "Crap, I don't have what I need." So I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "It's just gonna be black and white though." So
Well,
like all those
yeah.
photos are black and white because I'm like, the lighting in there sucked and I didn't have the appropriate stuff to light it well. So I was like, it'll be black and white and we'll be
And
good.
there's
So
times, like, especially wedding, candid wedding, or as an event photographer, or even like in my own home, like I'm photographing this way and I just turn around, I see something here. I don't sometimes have the time to adjust my light, like my Kelvin,
yeah.
or adjust
Yeah.
my
Oh
flash
yeah.
or whatever from this to that, that sometimes like I just can't save it, right? But it's this
Yeah.
moment. And then I have to decide, okay, is the moment worth saving? And sometimes it is, like, even if it's a
Yeah.
little off soft focus, or if it's especially with families, like, if it's, like, a little soft focus, or is it's this moment between, like, a mom and a kid, or, like, I don't
Mhm.
know, like a CEO and, like, an employee, like, if you can see the emotion in the moment and it's a little soft, I'm okay including it because it's the moment that matters to me.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it might not technically, like you said, be the color
Mhm.
might be a little off, but, like, that's when I'm okay with it, if
Mm.
that makes sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
but
I
yeah.
struggle with that too because I'll look at something and be like, "Is this savable?" I'm gonna take it and run it through Topaz or something and be like,
Yeah.
"Can I sharpen this anymore to make this look good?"
Well, and
And
you
then
I
if
mean,
it's unsavable, I'm like, I gotta debate, like, is it worth leaving in there or do I just take it out? So, yeah.
well, and I've, like, I don't know, like, if you ever see me shoot, and maybe I'm just imagining what I look like, and, like, I caught someone watching me once, like, because I was, like, on the
Creepy.
ground, and I was, like, looking this way, and I'm looking that, and I'm looking every which way, and I'm, like, crouched down, and I saw someone, like, watching me, but, like, I was literally like, "Okay, I'm trying to wait for this person to get in front of this light so, like, it illuminates them," and it was on a dance floor, and I'm like, "I probably look nuts," but I'm like, I'm literally just waiting for that moment and choosing, like, I wanted it to be a little blurrier, but I was waiting for, because when you think of a dance floor, I think of, like, movement, right? And I think of
Yeah.
color, and I'm thinking of just the silhouette because, it's late at
Oh,
night and you
yeah.
got blurry eyes because you're tired. And so I was like waiting, and I'm like, this person probably thinks I'm nuts, but I'm like there are times when I make those decisions, or
Yeah.
I was like photographing into a mirror because you could see the stage from the mirror, and there was like
Mm.
this big logo, and like I took it both ways. I took with the logo in focus
Yeah.
and the person on stage out of focus, and then vice versa, because I was like, maybe they want it both ways. So like, I don't know,
Yeah.
that to me sometimes I feel is lacking with the trends, like that
Yeah.
understanding why you're doing it.
Don't you hate it when you feel like you have to explain yourself when people are watching you? Like, I I do this at weddings a lot, where if like, let's say I have, like, a wedding party or there's, like, a bunch of people standing around and, like, kinda going through there. I'll, like, turn to them because I love foreground, and I'll be like, "I'm going National Geographic, guys," and then, like, I'm, like, tucked behind
Oh
a
yeah.
tree or something because I want, like, the blurriness of the tree in
Yes.
front and everything in the back, but yeah, totally. I
Oh,
love it.
yeah, and and so I do my, like, daily I attempt a daily project, right? I usually start
Oh,
in
yeah.
January, and I think the farthest I've gone is, like, 90 some days for a 365, but that's made me comfortable enough to, like, not care, like,
Mhm.
what I'm doing, I'm
Yeah.
outside in random spots, like, taking pictures, or moving around, or just doing random weird things, and everyone thinks I'm
Yeah.
weird. Like, I 100% understand, like, everyone thinks I'm weird, and I'm okay with it. But those projects make me a better photographer, like,
Yeah.
because I start to see life as, like, a photograph, I guess,
Yeah.
like, I might not
So
take
let's
them
talk
off.
about the pantyhose trend. So for non-photographers, this is a thing where photographers are using a pair of pantyhose and they put it over their lens to make it look like some kind of filter. It almost gives like that old 70s film look, like it reminds me
It's
of
like
like
a
my
tan
parents'
hue.
wedding photos.
Yes, it gives like a tan hue, right? Like
Yeah.
that, like
Yeah. And very soft, which I feel there's times where I'm okay with it, but there's times where I'm like, are you going to be known as the girl or guy with the pantyhose? Like, I don't want that. And
like
like,
I
I
would
laugh when you see photos of a photographer and they have like a pantyhose wrapped around their lens. And I'm like, oh, they're a pantyhose photographer.
I so like I yes, like if I'm out photographing my kids with some pantyhose on my lens, like I'm like, what how is that adding to anything, in my opinion? But let's say I'm a boudoir photographer, right? I
Yeah.
think that
Totally
would look
intentional. I get it.
totally cool because it would soften everything and like the
Yeah.
curves and like the soft light, like that. But like then I also think like I'm not a wedding photographer. Would I want my entire wedding gallery to be shot through pantyhose?
Oh, heck no.
No, and that's
No.
with trends. Like you can't do it
Yeah.
all. You can't be known as
Yeah.
that. And I mean, I have a prism I shoot through sometimes, right? No one really sees it because it's for my own
I don't
personal
think I've ever seen you use a prism.
Yes, you
That's
don't.
interesting.
You don't. But
I
I
was like, you
have
have a
one.
prism?
I do. I do. And I mean, I don't know. Like I will shoot through some weird stuff for my own personal like, but like I don't know. Like yeah, I think that trends are just that, a trend.
I
And
think that's important to say though, like, as long as it's, like, 1 or 2 creative elements, but it's not
yeah,
your whole look, you know?
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah.
It's gotta be in a creative moment, but not, like, the entire thing for sure.
Well, and I think
Um
we also oh wow, that's like crazy wind out there. I also think that
Squirrel.
I think that we and maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe this is one of my hot takes. Like, I feel like we all feel like we have to have a style, right? Like this is the
Oh, yeah.
only way we can shoot, right? I can only
Mhm.
shoot using shadows. And I don't think like okay, yes, I have to admit like I can tell you what my photos are most of the time because of the way I shoot, but like it's okay to step out of that comfort zone. Like it's okay to
Yeah.
do these things, but like and it's okay to, like, do more than one thing, like, you don't have
Yeah.
to just shoot through pantyhose, you don't have to just use film, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think you can meld an amazing gallery together using a little bit of everything, and just
Yeah.
imagine, like, how awesome that would be, like, to
I
get a
think
client.
I think a lot of it is when you're a new photographer and that's your thing, it's like learn the I hate to say right way, but like
Yes.
appropriate way, like know how to do all lighting scenarios. Don't just fixate on that. Like, and that goes with flash too, because I do a lot of associate shooting for other people. And so, like, if I know their main focus is harsh shadows, then that's how I'm going to shoot the whole wedding day for them.
Yeah.
Even though it's not my style, I know that. Because if I have someone that does that for me, it's gonna drive me insane.
Well, I
And
know sorry, go ahead.
no, you're fine.
I was just gonna say this weekend I was telling someone, I'm like, I have a friend who does light and airy. I'm like, and I love the shadows. Like, give me as many shadows as I can work with. And I said, but if I shoot for her, and I was standing in front of a window, if I shoot for her, I'm looking like I am having them look at that window because she wants that like
Are you
even
talking about me?
no, you, yeah. I'm like, you I know my back is to that window
Yes.
and my clients are looking at that window because she wants that
Yeah.
even light.
Yep.
And she knows for me, she is gonna turn those people sideways
Oh,
and
yeah. And get
they're
that
once yes, they're
harsh
left or
shadow.
right. It's either a harsh, like either 90 or 70 or a
Yeah.
45. Like we're gonna have a little bit
Mhm.
of
Dimension.
dimension. For me, neither are
Yeah.
wrong, neither are right. They're
Right.
both lighting scenarios.
Yeah.
But I also love flat lighting because it can add depth to a gallery, right? Like
Mhm.
because I mean,
Yeah.
who wants the same thing? It's like
Yeah.
eating like yogurt every morning for breakfast. Like who wants to do that?
That's
Like
not me. Which is
no
funny because
pancakes
I
good.
aspire to make everything consistent in my work. That's probably why I struggle with that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe you
All
should do a
right. Well,
365 with me.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute, but we're gonna skip the rest of these trends that I had listed because we're running out of time and I really want to cover some other stuff.
You need
So
part 2.
let's maybe let's talk about the 365 photo challenge. So yeah, like I could never do that, but you did bring up a good point that maybe I could do a weekly.
Yes, like a I
Um,
think it's like a P52 or something, Project 52.
yeah.
Yeah.
But tell me, like, do you do them every day with your camera or sometimes they on like your cell phone?
Oh, I'll do cell phone. Like sometimes,
Okay.
I just know that I can't bring a camera out, or like my family would just annihilate me if I bring another camera. Um,
Right?
right. It just is what it is. Um, and sometimes it's not even every day. Like I think
Yeah.
Sunday I was in the car for 5.5 hours. So I took a couple extra photos on Saturday, and it
Yeah.
just took into you have to take those things into consideration
Yeah.
because life
Oh yeah.
happens, right?
Yep.
So I think I've only made it to like 90 some days, which is great. But like
Yeah, I
my
wondered how
goal,
far you got last year because I knew like this time last year you were like really into it, but I didn't know like how far you at because I didn't think you were doing it towards the end of the year. You would have been
no,
sharing, but
that's the thing is when I get busy at work, the first thing that goes out is my creative projects, like my passion
oh yeah,
projects, my
which is
personal
so
projects.
sad. Yeah,
You know,
because
it
that's where
is.
like you get your creative flow. But um yeah, I think I'm so intimidated because I look at what you have an eye for and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's so good. Would I find something like that every week?" Where I
I
see that, you know? And so that's where I'm struggling, but I think I need to really expand my thought process on that and
I
really
don't know.
try it,
I
honestly.
find it helps me, and I take classes constantly, like little breakouts they're called. So
Yeah.
I love it because it makes me look for new things. It
Mm.
makes me capture our life together, and then I create books,
Yeah.
right? Like we don't do family photo shoots because they're a disaster at my house
They
because
really
my
are.
children just,
But I love it.
I
But that's
mean,
who they are. I love it.
yes, and that's fine, and the last couple we did, it is like, I love them. 'Em, they're huge, they're hanging up on the walls, like, yes, it captures our family, but, like, my kids are better at, like, little moments here and there.
Yeah.
Um, but it helps me hone my, like, documentary style, it helps me hone
Yeah.
lighting, it helps me hone being a little bit more creative or pushing my boundaries a little bit more, than I probably would at a family session or an event where I'm under a lot more pressure.
Oh, for sure.
And it's just fun. Like, I feel like when you turn your passion into a business, it's your
Yeah.
business and you lose that passion. So you got to
Yep.
get that passion somehow. And
Which
that's,
is crazy because I feel like my passion has grown. It's interesting because as I niche down to weddings and seniors, like I've been so gung ho about weddings more than I have seniors. And I'm just like, when is this going to end? Because I'm worried like I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket and then hate it eventually. But right now, I'm just like, heck yeah, give me as many weddings as possible, which I'm sure to you sounds awful since you're like, I don't do
oh, it's
weddings.
not. No. But I don't know because you are very good at business and run like the workflows and the management and stuff where for me everything I want to be like, and I'm not saying that you're not like this. What I'm saying is for me like everything has I want it to be a piece of art. Like I want it to be in a
Yeah.
gallery show, right? It's got to be
Hmm.
like dramatic and it's
Yeah.
hard to do that consistently,
Yeah.
right? So like it's very draining on that regard. Um
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
so
Um,
yeah.
let's talk about gear and what is on your want list and what is on your need list.
Okay, let's be honest, I don't need any gear. I'm just laying it right out there, right?
I
Actually, I
don't
do.
need
I need a
anything
hot
right now
shoe.
either.
Yes. Canon, I
You-
need a hot shoe. Okay? I need a hot shoe on my R6,
She
okay?
has two cameras, everybody. So this
I
is
do.
her like her second camera. She needs her hot shoe fix. Literally, we were at one of these summit events and we were at Universal Studios. She was using my flash and it literally just like fell off onto the ground.
It did not fall on the ground. I caught it with my foot.
Oh, but I was like, "Girl, it's time to send that thing into Canon.
Oh,
Come on."
it was so embarrassing. So it's on my to-do list today. So yes, I need a hot shoe.
Especially when you're taking a picture of the CEO and it happens. Like, "You're not
It was
paying me enough." No, I'm just kidding.
no, no, no. That's not it. It's that Canon's hot shoe doesn't like to stay on. Um, okay, so but my want. Okay, I want a new lens
Yes.
maybe, like, because that's for
Mm.
my creative projects. But I really want an underwater housing
Yes.
for my camera because I just keep thinking like I have this session in the summer at like their family pool and it's just me just going in like lifestyle and documentary and
Yeah.
I'm like how cool would it be to like be able to go underwater and get pictures of like the kids with like bubbles and the dog because they have a dog and
You guys, she sent me this and I go, "Michelle, we just talked about goals for the year. Is this a want or a need?" And
I
she's
really
just like, "I need it. I need it for this session." And then I was an enabler and I said, "Well, can I borrow it?"
so you know I'm gonna get it at some point, right? Because I'm also
Yes.
thinking we're going to Daytona Beach and they got this awesome pool, and how cool would it be for like
Oh my
to
gosh,
catch
so
my
fun.
kids like under the water? And we have, and I'm very harsh with my gear. Like I'm always having it on like the boat and stuff, and
Yeah.
I just feel
It's a
I'm like,
security. Like if you put it in there, then you're like,
well,
I don't have to worry about my camera falling in the water.
well, and my understanding is that like honestly, like once it's you have to have all your settings set and
I was
then
gonna
put it in the
say,
housing. Like
you
there's no
probably
changing anything.
yeah.
Once you and it's heavy, my understanding. So it's
Okay.
not like yeah, so I just think it would be
I'm
really
like, can you
fun.
just stick it on a tripod in a giant bucket and go underwater at that point, you know? Like,
Like, it's
I'm just kidding.
so
I'm being
fun.
cheap.
I well,
Which
like
is
and
funny because our roles are reversed. Because
I know,
usually you're
right?
the one that doesn't wanna spend money, and I'm the one that's like, "I'm getting this."
I know. So that is my huge, huge want. Um, yeah, I just bought a new backdrop stand, like a nice heavy duty
Ooh,
sturdy one. And a
that's kind
yeah,
of a need, though, because you
that's
do
a
a lot
need.
of school portraits, you need
Yeah,
that. Um, I am like I my goal is to not buy any gear in 2024 because I need to pay off some credit cards. I mean, I don't have a lot of credit card debt, but it's my goal. Like I don't want any debt for my business. So I want to save up if I'm going to do something. Um so if I save up and have enough, maybe I'll buy it by the end of the year. But my goal, I really want to do a drone because I think it'd be really fun to add drone photography, which I just did an interview with Josh Fournier, and that's something I really want to add to my services
yeah.
because I just think it would be really cool. So
Oh my gosh,
I don't
yeah.
know. I just
Yeah,
want a
look at
different perspective. I want a different vantage point for my photography,
yeah,
just to bring in more creativity. But yeah, I don't
I
know.
know.
Um,
That'd be cool. How
which
about we
one do we
switch?
wanna talk about? Because we have
Oh, yeah,
time
what
for
is it?
one more.
Okay, well, you pick. You're the
You
host.
want me to pick?
Yeah.
Alright, let's bring it to, like, real talk. Let's talk about high school seniors and, like, what we've talked about before. So, we both do high school seniors, and something we've noticed this season is how much sometimes and this is not for everyone, but we've noticed a lot of how seniors can be over sexualized in their photos, and it's
Yeah.
kinda icky. It's just like, "Really?"
Well, it's a fine
Like
line because they're
yeah,
getting to be adults, right?
yeah,
And but they're still kids, and I feel
yeah,
like Pinterest and TikTok, like they
yeah.
don't go through the awkward stage like we did, right? Like I had a
Mhm.
very long awkward stage. Like my parents had nothing to worry about. Right?
Me
Like
too.
I like so like you know, they don't go through that awkward stage and they're adorable and they come with the best clothes and stuff. So that's not what I'm saying. But it's hard for me to pose them because the way I like to pose, I always like refer to Courtney Love's like doll parts. I was like, you're like a broken doll, right? Like, but if you're wearing like a short dress and you're like broken doll, it gets to be, I'm like,
Mm,
oh, I'm like, is that too, am I pushing it too hard, too much,
yeah.
too far?
Well, you throw
Um,
in, like, a really short dress, which is really the like,
and it's
real
a
short
trend.
dress, spaghetti strap, like, that's a huge thing right now. You throw on some heels with that,
Yeah.
and you do that, and I feel like sometimes I wonder if there's like the photographer or if it's the parent because sometimes it's the parent asking
Yeah.
um where they'll say, "Can we do this? Can we do that?" Or the senior wants to because they're very much into this I want to be an influencer stage. Um where they're doing like those boudoir type things where you're like, "Ooh, no." Cuz like we know for boudoir, it's a lot of points, triangles, like, all those things, and when you add that when for those that listening, if you don't know what that is, it's like creating limbs to, like, create a V or, like, pointing toes and things like that. When you do that, it almost gives that exotic, I don't know, vibe.
Yeah.
And so when you see that, let's say, like, in a girl who's posing in a short dress and heels, and you add that element, you're like, "Ooh." Like,
Well,
"No, we can't do that."
and I struggle with, like, I don't wanna just point out girls because, like, it's
Oh,
both,
no.
like,
Yeah.
like, I feel like I feel like the girls get the bad rap of it, right? Because the short
Yeah.
dresses and all that stuff, and I'm totally fine with all that, like, I just worry that I don't wanna push it too far, and with guys, I don't feel like I do as
Well,
much.
remember so this past summer, I had a senior
You
session and the guy
did.
had the shortest shorts and he had really
Yes.
long legs, and I was just like, people walking by were just, like, looking at looking at him, and I'm like, "How do I do this? Because these shorts seem so short to me. Like, how do I
Yeah.
photograph this in an angle so it's not all about your eyes going to the shorts? Because I
It's and
I
I guess
felt uncomfortable photographing it because 'cause I'm like,
yeah.
"This is a minor." Like, I no, like, I can't. It's just odd.
Well,
And
that's
the
why oh, go ahead.
sorry. The
No, go
mom
ahead.
was there, but she was just like, "I'm just gonna sit here and work on my emails while you do photos around," and I was like, "Okay," and it just felt uncomfortable, so I was there was a lot of waist up photos, but also, like, how can I do this so that these shorts don't seem so short?
I That's why I always have a parent there. I always request a
Yeah.
parent. It's in my contract, just so that way it doesn't come back on me like, "Oh, you did
Oh,
this."
for
Because I
sure.
do have I mean, I've got some amazing pictures of my girls, and they have, like, the best eyes and, like, the best
Mhm.
posing and stuff, so I don't ever want it to be like, "You over sexualized the photo."
Right.
Um, but I think on those, I do a lot more, like, standing and a lot more, I tell all the girls, like, knees together, right? Like, you don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to be prim and proper, but I'm like,
We're
"Okay,
not
knees
open for
together."
business.
Yes. And, like, the boys with the shorter shorts, those are the ones where because it's a trend now. That's, like, the
Oh,
style.
yeah.
Probably more
It really
walking.
limits your posing though, because you just can't like, even sitting poses, you're like, "Ooh."
I would stay so for me, I stay away from sitting in those,
Yeah.
more
Oh, yeah.
standing. Um, so I do, but I feel like sometimes I probably even push the limits with it being too, like, overly sexualized by, like I said, like the doubt, like, there's one where I have, like, the girl's knees are together, and then she's kinda like this,
Yeah.
again, I'm inspired by the '90s, like, grunge, so I'm like, "Give me
Yeah.
that broken,"
Oh, yeah.
and the song's playing in my head, but, like, it's the little baby doll dress, Courtney Love,
Oh, yeah.
heroin chic, and that's what's playing in my head and my inspiration, and I'm trying to do it for a 16, 17, 18-year-old girl without that connotation because
Mhm.
it's hard. You're right, it is hard. Like
Well, it's also really strange, like, when a parent asks you I know you this has happened to you, has asked you to do photos without their shirt on, the guys.
yeah,
And it's
I
like, yeah, they've worked hard, they have, like, worked hard
yeah,
at their muscles and things like that, but you're like unless you're at the beach, for one, or it's like a water polo or swim shoot where you're, like, showing that off, it's kind of I don't
well,
know.
I know he felt
It's almost like,
uncomfortable.
"Ugh."
He felt
Yeah,
uncomfortable, and I can understand why mom wanted it because she's like, "You're gonna be proud of this one day." Like, one day you're gonna look back and be like, "I put all this
yeah,
effort in." So, I could understand her point of view, and I can understand his. Like, I don't know if I
yeah.
want this lady who knows my mom, like,
Oh, yeah.
taking these pictures. So, I literally was like, "I will take them for you. I'll put them in your gallery, but just know that I'm not gonna put them on my website because I feel like
Oh, yeah, for
that would
sure.
make you even more uncomfortable." And he's like, "That's fine then." So, like, I really
Yeah,
just kind of, like I really respect people's, like, opinions and boundaries, like, there's a lot that I'll do, but you might not see on social
mhm.
media because if they want the picture and they're not comfortable showing it, I'm not gonna be like, "Well, you signed the contract and there's a
Oh,
love
yeah.
release." Like,
Yeah,
I'm
for
like,
sure.
so yeah, so you would never see those photos like on any of my social media or website, but I took
No,
them for them, and yeah.
for real. No, I totally the same. All right, Michelle, last
All right.
question. Where can we find you on the web?
Oh my gosh. Um, Facebook and Instagram at Michelle Christine Photos, and then michellechristinephotography.com.
That's Christine with
Yeah,
a K, just so you
Christine
know.
with a K, Kristine. My mom was weird. And yeah, so check me out there. I'm not an influencer. Like, sorry guys. I
Are you sure?
just definitely
I
not.
think we're gonna have to go to a part 2 because there's a lot we didn't cover that was under our list of things we
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. So definitely a part 2. If you're wanting to follow the Cameras and Coffee podcast, you can find us at karahainesphotography.com/podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Cameras and Coffee Podcast. But Michelle, thank you for being here today.
All right. Well, have a good one.
And yes, and until next time, my friends, cheers.